The city of Mombasa shimmered under the golden afternoon sun. Streets hummed with noise, women balancing groceries, men shouting prices from stalls, and taxis hooting impatiently as they squeezed through narrow lanes. Amid the busyness stood a small, brightly painted shop with a sign that read, "Fatuma's Beauty Haven, where beauty speaks." Everyone in the city knew Fatuma. Her fingers moved like magic, fast, gentle, and skillful. She could transform the roughest hair into the most elegant design. Whether it was braids, weaves, or fancy twists, Fatuma's work spoke louder than any billboard. She became the talk of town in less than a year. People traveled from distant neighborhoods just to have their hair done by her. But there was one strange rule in Fatuma's saloon, a rule that made her different, a rule that kept people whispering. No mirrors allowed. No small mirrors in handbags, no reflections on phones, not even the shiny silver side of a comb was allowed, and Fatuma was deadly serious about it. Every morning before opening, she would check every corner of her saloon, cover the small reflective nail in the wall with a scarf, and hang a big poster at the door that read, "Strictly no mirrors." If you entered her saloon, she would check your bag. If you had a compact mirror, she would confiscate it. If she saw a phone screen too shiny, she'd tell you to keep it away. Some thought she was eccentric. Others whispered that maybe Fatuma was hiding something. But no one dared to ask directly, because Fatuma had a temper. Her voice was loud and commanding, her stare sharp like a blade. Yet her hands remained soft and kind when touching hair, a strange combination that made people fear and admire her at the same time. It was a Sunday morning when a young woman named Donna arrived in the city. She was new, beautiful, polite, and curious. She had heard stories about Fatuma's magical hands and decided she must visit the saloon before starting her new job the next day. "Excuse me," Donna asked two ladies by the roadside. "Where can I find Fatuma's saloon?" The ladies smiled knowingly. "Oh, you mean the saloon with the no mirror rule?" Donna frowned. "No mirror rule? What's that supposed to mean?" They laughed lightly, shaking their heads. "You'll understand when you get there. But be careful. She doesn't joke about it." Confused, Donna continued her walk. When she finally found the place, she was impressed. The small saloon was clean and smelled of coconut oil and perfume. Beautiful hairstyles filled the walls in framed pictures. Inside, several women sat chatting as Fatuma worked. But before Donna could even enter, Fatuma stepped forward. "Good afternoon," Fatuma said coldly. "Show me your bag." Donna blinked. "My bag? Why?" "Just open it," Fatuma insisted. Feeling awkward, Donna obeyed. Inside the bag was her wallet, lip gloss, a comb, and a small mirror. The moment Fatuma saw it, her expression darkened. She grabbed the mirror quickly, her hands shaking slightly. "What is this?" she barked. "Didn't you see the sign outside?" Donna stammered. I didn't know. I'm new here." "I didn't understand." "Get that thing out of here!" Fatuma's voice trembled, not with anger alone, but something deeper. Fear. The entire saloon went silent. The women stared. Some whispered behind their hands. Donna, embarrassed, apologized softly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break your rule." Fatuma sighed, her chest rising and falling fast. Then she calmed herself. "Fine. Leave it there on the table. Sit down, whispers and wonder." As Fatuma braided Donna's hair, whispers filled the room. "Why is she so afraid of mirrors?" one woman murmured. "I heard she used to be possessed," another replied quietly. "Maybe she hides her real face," someone joked. Fatuma ignored them all, her hands moving quickly through Donna's hair. When she finished, Donna looked at her reflection on the glass door, the only reflective surface around, and smiled. "It's perfect," she said softly. "Thank you." Fatuma only nodded, not meeting her eyes. As Donna paid and left, two other ladies entered, Joan and her friend. They admired the hairstyles, chatting excitedly. Joan smiled politely. "Hi, we want to make our hair too." Fatuma nodded. "First, let me check your bags." Joan frowned. "Excuse me? Why would you check our bags?" "It's my rule," Fatuma replied firmly. The women exchanged looks. "Are you looking for something?" "Drugs, or what?" Fatuma's lips tightened. "Mirrors." "No mirrors are allowed in my saloon," Joan laughed. "You must be joking." "I never joke about my rules," Fatuma said coldly. "If you can't accept that, my door is right there." Joan rolled her eyes but allowed the check. "You're strange," she muttered. Fatuma ignored her. That day ended like many others. Customers came and went, but everyone left wondering the same thing. What was Fatuma hiding from mirrors? Days passed, and word about the no-mirror saloon spread like wildfire. Some avoided it. Others came out of curiosity. Among them was a young woman named Rose, a bold and observant village girl who had moved to the city recently. Rose had heard the stories and wanted to see for herself. She wasn't just curious, she wanted to understand. Something in her heart whispered that this was not just superstition. She entered the saloon one hot afternoon, pretending to be just another customer. "Good afternoon," she greeted warmly. Fatuma was working on another lady's hair. She looked up briefly and nodded. "Wait there. I'll check your bag before you sit." Rose smiled innocently. "Sure." She had heard this part before, and she had come prepared. She had hidden a small round mirror in the lining of her pocket. Fatuma checked her bag quickly, found nothing, and waved her in. "Sit. What style do you want?" "Just simple braids, please," Rose replied sweetly. Fatuma began her work. Her fingers moved rhythmically, twisting, pulling, tucking. She hummed softly, a strange tune, slow and haunting. Rose tried to relax, but something about the song felt wrong. Minutes passed. Fatuma's hands moved faster, too fast. Rose frowned. She could swear she saw a shadow behind Fatuma, faint but real. A tall, dark figure moving in sync with her hands, helping her braid. Her heart began to race. Was it her imagination? Or was someone truly there? She swallowed hard. Quietly, she slipped the small mirror from her pocket, pretending to check her earrings. The moment the mirror caught the reflection behind Fatuma, Rose froze. It wasn't just Fatuma's reflection. Standing right beside her was a dark spirit, tall and thin, with eyes like burning coal, braiding alongside her. Rose gasped softly, her hand trembling. The air suddenly turned cold. She wanted to scream, but her voice died in her throat. Fatuma, noticing the sudden silence, turned around. Her eyes followed Rose's terrified gaze, straight into the mirror. When Fatuma saw what Rose had seen, she screamed, "No!" She grabbed the mirror and smashed it to the ground. It shattered into countless pieces. Everyone in the saloon screamed. The lights flickered. A heavy wind blew through the room, though no door was open. The customers ran out, shouting, "Witchcraft! Witchcraft!" Fatuma stood there panting, trembling, tears streaming down her face. That night, for the first time, she didn't open her saloon. She sat in darkness, her mind replaying what had happened. The secret she had buried for years was now out. In the following days, the city was full of gossip. Some said Fatuma was possessed. Others claimed she was cursed from birth. But no one knew the real story. When Fatuma was a baby, her mother, a poor widow, had taken her to the lakeside to meet an old herbalist. Life had been cruel to them. The mother's saloon business had failed. She had no customers and no money. Desperate, she cried to the gods for help. At the lake, an old man appeared, not quite human, not quite spirit. His voice was deep and echoed like water splashing in a cave. "Do you want your daughter to be great?" he asked. "Yes," her mother wept. I want her to be loved, to be successful. Then offer her to the lake. Let her spirit be mine, and I will make her the best hairdresser in the city. People will flock to her, and money will never leave her door." The mother hesitated, but hunger and poverty silenced her conscience. That night, under the moonlight, she whispered Fatuma's name into the lake 3 times and sprinkled the baby's hair with lake water. From that day on, the spirit of the lake followed Fatuma. Years later, when she grew up and opened her own saloon, everything she touched turned to success, but only as long as she obeyed one rule from the spirit: never allow mirrors. Because in a mirror, the spirit's reflection would appear, and its secret would be revealed. Fatuma never questioned it. She just obeyed. And indeed, her business flourished. But after Rose's mirror broke, everything changed. Rose couldn't sleep. The image of the spirit haunted her dreams. But she wasn't afraid. She was determined. She knew someone who could help, an old woman who prayed for people bound by dark powers. One evening, Rose visited the old woman and told her everything. The old woman listened carefully, her eyes full of compassion. "My child," she said softly, "what Fatuma carries is not her fault. Her mother's covenant tied her soul, but God's light can break any chain." She gave Rose a small mirror and prayed over it. "This is not an ordinary mirror. It will reveal the truth and trap what hides in darkness. Take it back to her, if she allows you." The next day, Rose dressed neatly and went back to Fatuma's saloon. She found Fatuma sitting alone, her eyes red from crying. The shop was empty, lifeless. "Fatuma?" Rose greeted softly. Fatuma looked up, startled. "You again? Haven't you caused enough?" Rose walked closer, calm and kind. "I didn't come to fight you. I came to help you." Fatuma sighed bitterly. "Help me? You don't understand what I carry." "Then let me understand," Rose replied. "Please, just listen." For a long moment, Fatuma stared at her, then nodded weakly. "Sit." Rose gently placed the mirror on the table, facing the dark corner of the saloon. Fatuma's eyes widened. "No, don't bring that thing here again." "Trust me," Rose whispered. "You need to see what you're fighting." They both prayed softly as Rose began to speak scriptures under her breath. Suddenly, the mirror's surface rippled like water. A dark shadow appeared inside it, the same spirit, tall and angry, its eyes blazing. Fatuma screamed, "That's him! That's the one!" The mirror shook violently. The lights flickered again, but Rose stood firm, quoting the verse the old woman had taught her. "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." John 1:5. The spirit hissed and shrank back. Rose placed her hand on Fatuma's shoulder. "Say after me, I break every covenant made on my behalf." "I belong to God now," Fatuma repeated the words through tears. The spirit screamed, a terrible, echoing sound, and then, in one final flash, it was gone. The mirror cracked, then fell to the floor, shattering completely. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Fatuma fell to her knees, weeping, not in fear, but in relief. "It's gone," she whispered. "I feel free." Rose knelt beside her and hugged her tightly. "You are free, sister. God has set you free." From that day, Fatuma changed. Her saloon reopened, this time with mirrors, big, shining mirrors on every wall. Customers returned, not out of curiosity, but love. The place that once hid darkness now reflected light. Fatuma worked with joy and peace, her laughter filling the room. She told her story to every woman who came in, how darkness once ruled her life, and how God used a stranger named Rose to bring deliverance. She learned another verse that became her testimony. "If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." John 8:36. And she lived by it every day. Dear listener, this story is not just about Fatuma. It's about you and me. Many people walk around smiling, successful, and admired, but deep inside they carry invisible chains. Chains of fear, family curses, or painful pasts they never chose. Fatuma's mother made a covenant without her consent, yet it shaped her life for decades. Sometimes we too suffer because of what others did, the choices of parents, relatives, or even friends. But the good news is this: Jesus Christ breaks every covenant that is not of God. The mirrors in Fatuma's saloon represent truth. For years she avoided mirrors, avoided facing her reflection. Many of us do the same. We avoid facing our pain, guilt, or spiritual reality. But true freedom begins when we dare to look into the mirror of God's Word and confront what's wrong. Greater than, "For if anyone is a hearer of the Word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks at his face in a mirror and forgets what he looks like." James 1:23-24. This means we must not just hear truth, we must let it change us. Fatuma's story reminds us that what begins as mystery may end in deliverance if light is allowed to enter. Her no-mirror rule was built on fear, but God turned that fear into a testimony. If you are reading this and feel bound by something unseen, a family curse, a past sin, or a deep pain, remember this: God still delivers, light still wins, and freedom is still possible.